Ever wonder how your grandma got dinner on the table in 10 minutes? Without recipes? Without rules? No cookbooks? No timers. Just a hot pan, a wooden spoon, and whatever was left in the fridge. These weren't meals for show. They were fast, filling, and full of flavor. Today, we're opening up Grandma's old recipe box to rediscover 25 forgotten 10-minute meals that somehow slipped away. Lemon pasta with a sweet twist. This one sounds made up, like something pulled from the back of the fridge in a moment of desperation. Lemon, pasta, and honey? Somehow it works. Not just works. It sings like one of those forgotten kitchen miracles. It starts with a pot of boiling water and whatever pasta you've got lying around. Elbows, spaghetti, bow ties, it doesn't matter. This dish doesn't care about shape, only about the soul, just like Grandma's cooking. While the pasta cooks, you mix up a quick sauce in a bowl, a glug of olive oil, a good squeeze of lemon juice, and a spoonful of honey. That's it. No simmering, no thickening, just raw ingredients waiting to collide. When the pasta's done, don't wait. Drain it and toss it straight into the bowl while it's still steaming, so the warmth coaxes everything into a silky, glossy coating. The result is zippy, a little sweet, bright enough to feel like sunshine on your tongue. A pinch of black pepper cuts the sugar and gives it some grown-up edge. And if you had anything else lying around, basil leaves, a dusting of Parmesan, you'd throw that in too. But even without the extras, it delivered. Fast, cheap, a little strange, in the best old-school way. Healthy Snickers. Nobody called it that back then. We didn't have the fancy branding or viral hashtags. But if you took a medjool date, sliced it open, stuffed it with a generous dollop of peanut butter, and dunked the whole thing in melted chocolate, that was dessert. No fuss, no pretense. Just pure, indulgent satisfaction. You'd line them up neatly on a piece of wax paper, slide the tray into the fridge, and wait for them to firm up. When they came out, they looked like something you might have picked up at a gourmet candy shop. Glossy, rich, mysterious. But the real magic, it was in that first bite. The soft chew of the date, the salty creaminess of the peanut butter, the snap of the chilled chocolate. It hit every craving at once. Sweet, salty, smooth and chewy, with zero baking, zero measuring, zero regret. It was the kind of snack you threw together when no one was looking, and then ended up making a dozen more because everyone wanted one. Nobody back then worried about macros, calories, or clean eating. They just knew good food when they tasted it. If this made you smile or reminded you of your own favorites, hit subscribe and stay with us. There's a lot more tucked away comfort food to rediscover. The world's best sandwich. It started with a hot skillet and no plan. You didn't need one. Sometimes the best things come out of a little hunger and a little curiosity. You crack a couple of eggs. No whisking, no scrambling. Just let them hit the pan as they are. Let the whites bubble and the edges go lacy and golden. You know it's right when the spatula sticks just a little from that crispy edge. Then comes the cheese. Not a sprinkle, but a generous handful of whatever's in the bag. Cheddar, mozzarella, even a slice or two of American if that's all you've got. It melts and spreads, then fuses into a crackling, golden skirt around the eggs. And here's where things take a turn. A scoop of kimchi, cold from the jar, bracing and bold, gets dropped right on top. That funky, spicy tang wakes everything up. It's not traditional, it's not fancy, but it works like magic. You toast 2 slices of bread right in the same pan, soaking up every last bit of flavor, and slide the whole egg and kimchi creation between them. It's hot, crisp, gooey, punchy, and comforting in all the right ways. Born from a nearly empty fridge, it eats like a revelation and proves that the best meals were always the simplest ones. Giant Oreo cake. Take everything you loved about Oreos and blow it up to the size of a dinner plate. That's what this was. Not just a cookie, but a full-blown celebration disguised as dessert. It started with 2 thick chocolate cakes, baked fast in shallow pans so they'd stay soft but sturdy enough to hold up. The batter wasn't fussy, just rich, dark, and full of cocoa. While they cooled on the counter, the real magic happened. The filling. It wasn't frosting, not exactly. It was smoother, lighter, made from powdered sugar, softened butter, a splash of vanilla extract, and just enough milk to make it whip into fluffy submission. You didn't need a mixer, though it helped. A wooden spoon and a little elbow grease could get the job done too. Then came assembly. You'd slather the filling on thick, letting it swirl and mount like snowy peaks. No piping bags, no cake turntables, just a butter knife and some confidence. You'd stack the second cake on top and press lightly, watching the filling squish out the sides just a little. It didn't look store-bought. It looked like something from a church bake sale or a family reunion dessert table. Oversized, imperfect, and made with love. Each slice hits you with rich chocolate, creamy sweetness, and a wave of childhood memories. It was messy, loud, and perfect. French onion grilled cheese. This is what happens when you're craving soup, but don't have time or energy to wait around for it. You grab an onion, slice it as thin as humanly possible, and throw it into a hot pan with a generous knob of butter. No shortcuts here. Let it sizzle and soften until it turns golden, almost jammy, filling the kitchen with that deep, sweet aroma that says something good is happening. Now forget the soup pot. Take that onion magic and pile it onto a piece of bread. Add a few slices of cheese, anything that melts, and sandwich it shut. Back into the pan it goes until the outside is golden and crisp, and the inside oozes like a dream. It didn't taste like a quick meal. It tasted like French onion soup turned into grilled cheese, but richer, toastier, more satisfying somehow. No beef broth, no baguette croutons, no slow simmer. Just patience with the onions and a skillet hot enough to make it all come together. The end result? A 10-minute shortcut that smelled like it took hours and tasted even better. That's the kind of kitchen trick you pull off without even realizing it's genius. Kimchi pancakes. Tucked in the back of the old recipe box was this oddball of a recipe. Not quite a pancake, not quite an omelet, but definitely a 10-minute masterpiece. You took a scoop of chopped up kimchi, mixed it with a bit of flour, 1 lonely egg, and just enough water to get things moving. That was it. No measurements, just vibes. Stir it all up, pour it into a hot, oiled pan, and let it crisp until the edges go golden and frilly. Flip, fry, repeat. What came out looked rustic, smelled amazing, and tasted like something you'd pay too much for at a brunch spot downtown. Funky, spicy, crispy on the outside, soft in the middle, it had personality. If you were feeling extra, a splash of soy sauce and sesame oil on the side made it feel fancy. But honestly, it never needed help. It was what you made when the fridge was empty, except for that jar of kimchi you forgot you had. Straight out of a time when every dish had a story, and every bite meant something. Spaghetti chips. This was mischief in a pan. Leftover spaghetti, the kind that sat in the fridge overnight getting stiff and sad, had one last shot at greatness, and this recipe made it count. No reheating, no sauce revival. You just tossed those cold noodles with a glug of oil, maybe a pinch of salt if you felt generous, and into the pan they went. High heat, no mercy. You flipped them with a fork like you were frying bacon, watching them twist and curl into little golden clusters of crunchy goodness. They didn't look like much, but the second you took a bite, boom, pure crispy, salty, carby bliss. It was like the corner piece of lasagna and potato chips had a love child. These weren't made to impress. They were made to snack on when you were hungry, broke, or bored. Maybe all three. A pan full of rebellious energy, crackling on the stove. Best eaten standing up, straight from the skillet, with the zero shame and maybe a dash of hot sauce if you were feeling wild. The kind of thing you never admitted loving, but secretly hoped no one else saw so you didn't have to share. Frozen yogurt bark. This one felt like a magic trick disguised as a snack. The kind of thing you made when dessert sounded good, but effort didn't. You grabbed whatever yogurt you had, plain, fruity, Greek if you were feeling cultured, and spread it onto a tray like you were frosting a lazy cake. Then came the fun part. Toppings. Fresh berries if you had them. Frozen ones worked too. A handful of granola, maybe some coconut flakes, and if you really wanted to feel fancy, a scatter of chocolate chips or crushed pretzels. You weren't following a recipe. You were creating edible collage art. Once it looked pretty, it went in the freezer, and that was that. A few hours later, you cracked it apart like thin ice. Sweet, creamy, cold. It had crunch. It had color. It had just enough sugar to keep your sweet tooth quiet without starting a war with your conscience. You told yourself it was healthy, but mostly you just liked how it snapped in your hand. It was the perfect 10-minute prep snack. No baking, no rules. Just chill, break, and enjoy before it melts. Honeycomb Candy. You started with sugar and syrup in a saucepan, heating it until it bubbled like some kind of edible lava. Just when it looked like it might boil over, you threw in baking soda, and that's when the magic happened. The mixture frothed and expanded like a volcano, doubling in size before your eyes. You had about 3 seconds to pour it onto a greased tray before it set. Then you waited. Not long, just enough for it to cool and harden. And then came the fun part, smashing. You didn't cut this candy, you broke it. With a rolling pin, or a spoon, or your fist if it had been a day. The result was golden, airy, and sweet, with a whisper of burnt sugar. It shattered in your mouth and stuck in your teeth in the best possible way. It felt like caramel got a makeover and decided to be edgy. No candy thermometer, no fuss. Just sugar, science, and a craving. It was the kind of treat you made on a whim and then had to hide from yourself because suddenly 10 minutes had turned into 10 pieces and no regrets. Baked feta pasta. You know a recipe's legit when it breaks the internet, but long before TikTok discovered this magic, it lived quietly on a handwritten note card titled Cheater's Fancy Pasta, because that's what it was. A shortcut to something that looked 5-star but tasted like home. A block of feta, a bunch of cherry tomatoes, a few smashed garlic cloves, and a drizzle of olive oil went into a baking dish. 10 minutes in a hot oven, and the feta started melting into a creamy, tangy puddle while the tomatoes burst like flavor bombs. You didn't stir until the end. That was the secret. Then you swirled it all together and tossed in hot pasta. What came out wasn't just dinner. It was creamy, salty, rich, and shockingly satisfying for something that took almost no effort. It felt like a grown-up meal made by someone who knew better but just didn't care. It was comfort food without the baggage. And the best part? It tasted like you knew what you were doing, even if you didn't. Cloud bread. This airy delight was a secret passed between curious home bakers and anyone who wanted to impress with minimal effort. Cloud bread isn't really bread in the traditional sense. It's more like if a pillow and a meringue had a baby. Made with whipped egg whites, a spoonful of sugar, and a bit of cornstarch, it's baked until golden and puffy. The result? A warm, fluffy round that tears apart like cotton candy and melts on your tongue like sweet air. It doesn't have the chew or crunch of toast, but it makes up for it with its quirky texture and slightly sweet taste. You could use it as a bun, slather it with jam, or just break pieces off and eat them straight from the baking tray while they're still warm. It was a favorite when you wanted something whimsical without dirtying the whole kitchen. It's the kind of thing you'd make on a rainy afternoon just to see if you could, and then end up making 3 more batches because somehow they always disappeared before the first one even cooled. You wouldn't find it in a cookbook, but you'd find it folded into a yellowing index card, just like the next one coming up. Butterboard. If charcuterie boards are the elegant dinner party guests, The Butterboard is the wild cousin who shows up unannounced and still steals the show. It starts simple: a wooden board, a generous layer of soft, spreadable butter, and then you decorate like you're painting a mural. Flaky salt, chopped herbs, thin slices of radish, swirls of honey, chili flakes, lemon zest. Whatever you've got on hand becomes fair game. Swipe it up with a crusty slice of bread, and suddenly, you're not just snacking, you're having a moment. This wasn't just about eating. It was about making something messy, shareable, and a little luxurious. And the best part? It took 10 minutes tops. No cooking, no heat, just creativity and carbs. Perfect for when guests dropped by uninvited, or when you wanted to feel like you were hosting a garden party, even though you were in pajamas. There was a kind of magic in watching people huddle around a butterboard, tearing into bread and laughing like the old days. Grated Egg Toast. There was something oddly satisfying about turning a hard-boiled egg into a fluffy cloud of shavings. Grated Egg Toast wasn't flashy, but it had that quiet, comforting charm. You start with a good piece of toast, something sturdy like sourdough or rye, then a slick of mayo or avocado if you're feeling fancy. Then comes the magic: a fine grater and a peeled hard-boiled egg, shredded right over the top. It lands like soft cheese, piling up into a snowy golden white mound. Add a sprinkle of salt and pepper, maybe some chili oil, or a dash of hot sauce if you want a kick. And that's it. Breakfast or lunch or midnight snack is served. Something you'd eat sitting by the window, scrolling through memories or the weather forecast. It was elegant without trying too hard, impressive without being complicated. Pizza roses. You weren't trying to win the Great British Bake Off, but these pizza roses sure made you look like a contestant. They started with refrigerated dough, some slices of pepperoni or salami, a bit of mozzarella, and your favorite marinara. Roll them up like cinnamon rolls, but tighter, so the meat fans out like petals. Bake until golden and bubbling, and out come little edible bouquets. They were the kind of thing you made for someone you wanted to impress without seeming like you tried too hard. A date night snack, a party appetizer, or just something fun to make with the kids on a lazy Sunday. But the beauty was, they didn't take much. 10 minutes to prep, a quick bake, and you had something that looked like it came from a bakery. They disappeared faster than you could make them. These recipes didn't survive because they were trendy. They lasted because they worked. Let's dig into the next one, salmon rice bowl. This wasn't a recipe. It was a hug in a bowl. Leftover salmon never tasted as good as when it was reheated with warm rice, a spoonful of mayo, and a squeeze of sriracha. Smash it all together. Toss in a bit of soy sauce or sesame oil if you had it, maybe a chopped scallion or two, and suddenly your fridge leftovers felt like a restaurant special. It was inspired by everything comforting and quick. You didn't need to follow instructions. You just needed to know what tasted good. This tasted really good. It was warm, rich, creamy, and spicy all at once. Add a piece of seaweed, and you have yourself a DIY sushi wrap. Add a fried egg on top, and you're basically gourmet. It was the kind of meal you made when you didn't want to cook, but needed more than a snack. Something that filled your stomach and lifted your mood. The kind of lunch you looked forward to after a long morning, or a dinner you ate curled up on the couch while your favorite show played in the background. Corn ribs. If you've never seen corn sliced lengthwise and curled up like ribs, buckle up. This one's wild. Back in the day, corn was boiled, buttered, and slapped on a plate. Done. But this take turns your regular cobs into crispy, smoky wedges of pure joy. Start by slicing corn into quarters. Carefully. It's tougher than it looks. Then brush those pieces with olive oil, smoked paprika, garlic powder, and a little chili for heat. Roast them until the edges curl and the kernels blister into golden bites of flavor. The whole thing ends up looking like barbecue ribs, but tastes like summer fair food that got an upgrade. Dip them in chipotle mayo or eat them straight off the tray. They're crunchy on the outside, soft in the middle, and disappear faster than you can say seconds. Perfect for parties, lazy dinners, or when you want to feel fancy without trying too hard. You won't believe corn could be this good. Once you try it, regular corn just feels boring. Pesto eggs. This recipe isn't just breakfast. It's a green, herby revelation. It's simple, fast, and punches way above its weight in flavor. You start by scooping a couple spoonfuls of pesto into a pan. Don't be shy. No butter, no oil. The pesto does all the heavy lifting. As it heats up, it gets crackly and fragrant, like basil perfume. Then you crack an egg right into the bubbling green sauce. The whites crisp up in the pesto oil, while the yolk stays golden and runny. It's not just pretty, it's delicious. You get those rich, nutty notes from the pine nuts, the sharpness of Parmesan, and that unmistakable garlic hit. Serve it over toast, tuck it into a wrap, or spoon it on top of avocado slices if you're feeling extra. It's done in under 10 minutes, but it tastes like a cafe brunch. And the best part? One pan, zero fuss. It's proof that sometimes the simplest tweaks make the biggest difference. Ramen Lasagna. This one's for the rule breakers. Ramen lasagna is chaotic, messy, and absolutely genius. Imagine swapping lasagna noodles for cooked instant ramen. Sounds illegal, tastes incredible. You layer it like a regular lasagna. Meat sauce, cheese, ramen noodles, repeat. Start with a hearty tomato sauce, ground beef or turkey, onions, garlic, and a jar of marinara. Then lay down your cooked ramen bricks, like edible puzzle pieces. Add ricotta, mozzarella, maybe a handful of spinach if you're pretending to be healthy. Bake it until the cheese bubbles and the top turns golden. The noodles soak up all the flavor and somehow it just works. The crispy edges, the gooey center, that signature ramen chew. It's lasagna with a college dorm soul and Sunday dinner attitude. It's the kind of dish that makes you laugh while eating it because you can't believe how good it is. You'll never look at ramen or lasagna the same way again. Rainbow Cloud Smoothie. This smoothie isn't just a drink, it's a mood. A pastel-colored swirl of fruity layers stacked like a rainbow in a glass. It looks like something out of a fairy tale cafe, but it's surprisingly easy to make. Each layer is just blended fruit and yogurt. Think strawberries for pink, mango for yellow, kiwi for green, blueberries for purple. You blend each one separately, then carefully spoon them into a tall glass. The key is chilling each layer a bit before adding the next, so the colors stay distinct. No fancy tools, just patience and a steady hand. The final result? A cool, creamy masterpiece that tastes like tropical sunshine. It's sweet, tangy, refreshing, and almost too pretty to drink. Kids love it. Adults feel fancy sipping it, and your social feed will thank you. It's the perfect treat when you want something healthy but still magical. Proof that grandma didn't need fancy tools, just flavor and a little know-how. Tortilla fold hack. 1 tortilla, 4 sections, infinite possibilities. It's fast food magic made at home. You start by slicing one line halfway into the tortilla, just a single cut. Then you mentally divide the tortilla into 4 quadrants. Each section gets its own filling. Think scrambled eggs, cheese, avocado, and salsa for breakfast, or deli meat, lettuce, tomatoes, and mayo for a classic lunch wrap. You fold each section over the next, quarter by quarter, until it becomes a layered triangle of deliciousness. Toast it on a skillet or press it in a sandwich maker until it's golden and melty. The result? Crispy edges, gooey insides, and all your favorite flavors in every bite. It's quick, fun, and endlessly customizable. Kids can build their own, adults can load it with gourmet stuff, and everyone ends up happy. It's the kind of kitchen trick that makes you feel like a genius. Breakfast, lunch, or dinner, fold and go. Pancake Cereal. This one's a throwback to a time when food was playful, and breakfast could double as a bowl of fun. Tiny pancakes made one by one, golden on the edges and soft in the middle, tossed into a bowl and eaten like cereal. All you need is basic pancake batter, a squeeze bottle, and a little patience. Squeeze out mini dots onto a non-stick pan and flip when they bubble up. Once you've got a whole batch, pour them into a bowl, drizzle with maple syrup, or go full retro with a splash of warm milk and a knob of butter on top. Want to level it up? Throw in mini chocolate chips or a dash of cinnamon. It's the kind of breakfast that makes you feel like a kid again. Quick to make, fun to eat, and perfect for mornings that need a little magic. Crispy rice sushi bites. These crunchy little bites are proof that a simple twist can turn leftovers into something unforgettable. Start with cold, leftover rice. Day-old rice works best. Form it into small bite-sized patties and crisp them up in a skillet or air fryer until they're golden and crunchy on the outside. Then comes the fun part. Top each one like tiny sushi canvases. A slice of avocado, a thin cut of salmon or tuna, a dab of spicy mayo, maybe a sprinkle of sesame seeds. The contrast of textures is what makes it sing. Crunchy rice, creamy toppings, and a kick of flavor with every bite. Serve them warm, and they vanish in seconds. They look fancy, but they're easy, fast, and way more satisfying than they have any right to be. One of those, how is this not in restaurants? Kind of recipes. Hot cocoa bombs. This is the kind of treat that turns an ordinary cup of milk into a full-blown experience. It starts with hollow chocolate spheres, made by melting chocolate, coating silicone molds, and letting them set. Inside, a little magic. Cocoa powder, sugar, mini marshmallows, maybe even a pinch of cinnamon or crushed peppermint. Seal the halves together, and you've got a glossy chocolate bomb ready to go. Drop it into a mug, pour over hot milk, and watch the show. The chocolate melts away, revealing a swirl of cocoa and fluffy mallows rising to the top. It's cozy, sweet, and just dramatic enough to impress without trying too hard. The best part? You can customize the inside however you like. White chocolate, salted caramel bits, a hint of chili for spice. It's nostalgic, sure, but with a modern twist. Perfect for chilly nights or just a little pick-me-up. Mini pancake skewers. Imagine pancakes, but portable and cute. Mini pancake skewers are exactly what they sound like. Bite-sized pancakes stacked on toothpicks or skewers, sometimes layered with fruit, and always ready to dip. You can make a batch of silver dollar pancakes in minutes using your favorite batter. Once cooked, thread them onto a skewer with sliced strawberries, bananas, or even mini marshmallows if you're feeling playful. Serve them with maple syrup on the side or a small dish of chocolate sauce for dipping. It's breakfast, it's brunch, it's dessert, it's whatever you want it to be. And because they're mini, people tend to lose count of how many they've eaten. Great for parties, lazy weekend mornings, or just when you want something simple that looks like you spent way more time than you did. Whipped coffee, dalgona. Before it took over the internet, this coffee fluff was one of those recipes passed around by word of mouth. It's instant coffee, sugar, and hot water, whipped until it turns into a thick, creamy cloud. That's it. Just 3 ingredients and a little elbow grease. Spoon it over a glass of milk, hot or iced, and stir it in for the creamiest, dreamiest coffee ever. It looks fancy, feels indulgent, and takes less than 10 minutes. The best part? You can tweak it. Add a bit of vanilla extract, sprinkle cinnamon on top, or swirl in some caramel for a little sweetness. It's one of those recipes that proves you don't need a coffee shop to feel like you're treating yourself. Just a spoon, a bowl, and a craving for something cool and classic. These forgotten 10-minute recipes still bring the kind of comfort and flavor that never goes out of style. If this trip through Grandma's recipe box brought back memories, don't forget to like, subscribe, and tell us in the comments which recipe reminded you of home. There's plenty more where this came from, and we'd love to have you at the table.